This man took a DNA test to help find his father. Then he saw the results showed someone he knew. The list of DNA results from the Ancestry kit was incredible, showing more than 1,000 matches. Cindy Macfarlane-Flores was helping her dad, Walter Macfarlane, trace his own biological father and had sent off his swab for testing. But when she sorted the DNA matches into order, one was so close it could only belong to an immediate family member. When they realized who that person was, they were dumbfounded. Walter Macfarlane then came into the world in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1943. To this day, no one knows why his birth mother had decided to give him up for adoption. But rather than have their grandchild adopted to an unknown family, Macfarlane's grandparents stepped in. Under the historic Hawaiian practice of hanai, they officially adopted the boy and raised him as their own. Growing up, he went to the renowned Punahou School in Honolulu, where Barack Obama himself was a student. A fan of sports, he played football and softball at school. In 6th grade, he met fellow student Alan Robinson, and the two became inseparable. Our friendship was forged on the football field, Macfarlane later told TV host Steve Harvey. Not only were the two close, but their families were friends too. Robinson said in an interview with CNN, "Walter used to live just down the road. His hanai mother was a good friend of my family, and my mom was the school nurse. So every time he was sick or hurt, our families would talk." The boys turned into men but remained firm buddies. Walter was at Robinson's wedding. Then later, Robinson acquired a sailboat and the two went out sailing together. In fact, for much of the next 60 years, they lived no more than 10 miles from each other in Honolulu. The pair both had kids who became friends, and the two families hung out together. In his professional life, Robinson became a pilot for Aloha Airlines. Cindy Macfarlane-Flores told CNN, "I grew up calling him Uncle Alan. Uncle Alan was my brother's idol growing up because he was an amazing pilot." Their friendly rivalry on the sports pitches of high school continued in their adult lives too. Robinson said in the CNN interview, "We used to go skin diving, spearing fish, and camping out on Molokai. Today we play cribbage against each other and are fierce competitors." Despite his fulfilling life, Macfarlane always felt a yearning to find out who his biological father was. It was an ambition that he shared with his own children. He said in an interview with Steve, "My older daughter Cindy really wanted us to look for my dad. So the kids got me a gift, and one of them was Ancestry." So when the results from the DNA test came back, Macfarlane-Flores recalled to Steve, "Up pops the highest match, Roby 737, close family member or sibling. He has a very high number of DNA matches in common with my father. So I called my mom and dad and I was like, oh my God, I think we've got a sibling. But who's this Roby 737? The incredible mystery identity of the person who the match belonged to began to fall into place," Macfarlane-Flores continued. "My mom said, tell Dad to call Uncle Alan because he flew 737s as a pilot for Aloha Airlines, and everyone called him Robbie as a nickname." This was because Macfarlane's lifelong friend had also been adopted. Born less than a year and a half after Macfarlane, Robinson had been given up at birth. Unlike Macfarlane, who had known his mother, Robinson had no idea who either of his parents were. But Robinson had had a very happy childhood. He told CNN, "It was great for me. I was raised by the best people you can imagine. But when I had my own two children, I did wonder about family history because I can never answer any health questions on official forms." Curious about his heritage, Robinson too had submitted DNA swabs to Ancestry a few years earlier. He was indeed Roby 737. Macfarlane-Flores told CNN, "We were on the edge of our seats, and he calls back and tells my dad, 'Yeah, that's me.' I guess they were both trying to play it cool, but my dad was crying." Other pieces of the jigsaw began to fall into place. Walter said in their interview with Steve earlier in 2018, "Over the years, people would say to us, 'You guys look like brothers. Are you brothers? Are you related?' And my response was always, 'No, how can we be related? We're not brothers.'" Robinson added to laughs from the TV audience, "Yeah, I always thought we looked alike because we were both part Hawaiian. It turned out that they share the same mother but had different fathers." All that remained was to tell the rest of their families. As it happened, the perfect occasion to break the news to everyone was already coming up. Macfarlane told Steve, "Our families were really excited. They wanted to tell the world, but at the same time we were planning a big party for my daughter, Alima Lay. We decided that instead of having 2 parties, why don't we combine them into one big party where we share the big news with my family, Macfarlane added. So at the event for Alima Lay, who just happens to be MMA flyweight world champion, they shared the wonderful news. The disclosure was incredibly emotional for everyone, but Macfarlane's family welcomed Robinson with open arms. Macfarlane told Steve Harvey, "When we made the announcement introducing Robbie to my family, they were so accepting and warm. I don't think there was a dry eye in the whole place." Although the two were overwhelmed to know their brothers, there remained an unanswered question for both of them in their lives. Macfarlane told Steve that they wanted to continue the quest in finding their fathers. But something else is coming up first. "Next week, we're going to Las Vegas," Robinson said with a grin.